Hamlin turns and shoots outside. Good.
We're on the clock, breaking it down like a buzzer shot. Fast break, slam dunks, wild rebounds too. The game keeps spinning. We're breaking through.
All right, it's time to talk basketball. Jose Salviati, editor at thepeachbasket.net. He's Steve Purciello, a longtime educator, vice principal, high school basketball coach, and athletic director. And this week, we are pausing the Shot Clock Pod. The Shot Clock is put away. The Shot Clock Pod, of course, is the best 24 minutes of random NBA thoughts online anywhere. And we're putting it away in order to prepare for the 2025-26 NBA season by discussing specific and interesting NBA teams as we prepare for the new season. The first preseason game is only 19 days away. This week, we'll discuss the San Antonio Spurs. But Steve and I are excited to welcome Reagan from the Spurs Bros podcast. Reagan, along with Alec and Stuart, make up the Spurs Bros podcast, which you can find on YouTube and Instagram at the Spurs Bros podcast and X at the Spurs Bros pod. We'll have all that linked wherever you're hearing or watching this today, and encourage you to listen and subscribe for great Spurs content. And Reagan, thank you for taking the time. I know it's been a bit of a struggle. I know you were sick last week. I'm glad you're better, but we've been really excited to talk to you. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here, guys, and thanks for being flexible. First time I've been sick all year, so poor timing, but good to get it out of the way in the off season.
Or yeah, this is the time to do it. Right on. We're glad you're here. We're excited to talk Spurs basketball. Before we dive in, I wanted to throw out some interesting, or at least interesting to me, tidbits about the Spurs. They haven't been to the playoffs since 2018, 2019. They last won it all in 2013-24 season. And they've not had anyone named other than Greg Popovich as their full-time head coach since the 1997-98 NBA season. Despite all that, this could be a big year. They've made great moves. They've had some real success in the draft. This is a very good team. And first thing that comes to mind is Joel Embiid's trust the process years and years ago. And I think we've seen the process for the Sixers and that team taper out. That process is done. The process for the Spurs is just beginning. We're at the start of it, which is exciting as an NBA fan to see a team pick well in their drafts, make good decisions, keep a team together, and just throw it out there, see what happens. And that's what we're seeing with the Spurs. And I think it's going to be a very interesting and a very successful season for the Spurs. So we're excited to talk about them. I want to get started with a question that Steve posed, right? And this is about De'Aaron Fox. I had a couple questions about Fox as well, getting to watch him play on the West Coast. I'm a West Coast guy, so we got West, Central, and East all represented here. So pretty familiar with his game, phenomenal individual player in 2023 NBA All-Star, NBA All-NBA third team, clutch player of the year in 2023, steals leader in 2024. This is a good individual player, but his team, and admittedly, he played in Sacramento, which is hasn't been a great team, hasn't had great success as a franchise. But is this guy a leader? Is he worth, to ask Steve's question, $37 million a year? What do you think?
I absolutely do. We're about to pay him a lot more than 37 with the max deal that we just signed him to. We locked him in for the next basically 5 years, including this season. That extension money doesn't kick in until the 26-27 year. But I absolutely think he's a leader. He's got his head on his shoulders. He's a very reserved person. He went on record last summer saying he's not here for squeezing out every dollar that he can make. He's been in the league 8 or 9 years already, and he led a flailing Sacramento organization to the playoffs for the first time in, 16, 18 seasons. And how did they reward him? They fired his preferred head coach and made some interesting changes from the front office, classic ownership from Sacramento. So he made his way to San Antonio. This is where he wants to be. And I think there's a lot of people that have forgotten De'Aaron Fox is. He was dealing with a broken pinky all last year, got shut down after about 17 games with San Antonio. But I think he's going to come into this season ready to really remind people of his all-NBA and all-star caliber talents. I think he and Victor Wembanyama are going to have one of the most deadly pick and roll combinations in the entire NBA. If Chris Paul can be on the top 10 list of pick and roll efficiency with Wemby, I think De'Aaron Fox can be in the top 3 or 4. Very excited to see what he's going to do. Fastest player in the league with the ball. Can't wait for games to pick up in October.
I think there's no question he's a good offensive player and he can play well down the stretch. He's lucky he's going to have Stephen Castle with him because he can defend. I think one of the places that Fox is, I guess, negligent, not a great defender in any way. And when I watched a lot of the Sacramento games, which were fun, and he was great to watch. But I think the fact in the modern NBA, teams are figuring out you can't give max big money to players they have to be complete. So the reason we asked the question was he a complete player to make that money? And that's the crux of what we're trying to say.
I think there's questions about his ability to defend one-on-one or defend in a team scheme, but this is a guy that's averaged about 2 steals a game for most of his career, and he turns that into very efficient numbers in fast break offense off of those steals. And if he gets blown by, he's got by far and away the best defender on planet Earth in all of outer space, the alien Victor Wembanyama, protecting the rim. And we've got Luke Cornett to defend that rim. Like you said, Stephon Castle's great. Dylan Harper's going to be able to use his size. Jeremy Sohan is one of the best one-on-one wing defenders in the league. So he's got a team of guys around him, and the onus will not be on him to be the head of the defensive schemes. That's going to revolve around our center.
How do you pick 5 guys out to keep on the court?
That's a problem for Mitch Johnson to figure out, and that's a good problem to have. This is one of the deepest rosters that the Spurs have had since our last playoff run in 2019. The way that I see it, I think Fox is going to start alongside Stephon Castle. I think Harrison Barnes and Jeremy Sohan will slide in at 3 and 4 with Wemby at the 5. And that gives you a backup group with number 2 overall pick Dylan Harper. It gives you Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell for some scoring punch. It gives you optionality with Luke Cornett and Kelly Olynyk, our additions from the offseason. Julian Champagne's a sharpshooter. And Carter Bryant, the 14th overall pick. He can slide in and be an absolute menace. So the rotations is going to be one of the most exciting things for Alec and Stuart and I to watch evolve.
You also forgot Jordan McLaughlin, who's a pretty good ball player in Minnesota.
My fault.
Nice player. I understand that's a difficult situation to have so many good players, and it causes teams to have problems. I'm also curious, when you go out and sign Cornette for the money they gave him, and I've watched him a lot, and I think he's worth it. But he and Olynyk, I'm curious. My thought is the plan would be Wemby playing a lot of 4 to get those guys on the court.
Yeah, I think Cornette is going to be the first center off the bench to back him up. Olynyk can play the 4 or the 5. He's listed as a forward/center on the rosters. He's a guy that's not probably going to play a ton of minutes, maybe 15 minutes here and there. He only played 44 games last year for 2 separate teams combined. So it gives, again, optionality is the thing that you want on an NBA team. If Victor misses 10 games, we've still got Fournette and Olynyk and Sohan to fill in there. But I think what we saw was Wemby is most effective at the 5. It's like Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis loves to play power forward. He claims that's where he's best. But the Lakers last won a championship when Anthony Davis was playing the 5, or when he at least had a second big man on the court with them. So if Victor wants to shoot threes playing out of the 4 with Cornette or Olynyk playing the 5, so be it. But I think the best option for Wemby is to shave off a couple of those 3-point attempts a game, assert himself in the paint a little bit more frequently, and really embrace the center position.
The other piece that I'm curious about, and this is going a little off script, but the other piece I'm curious about, the effect of their new coach, Johnson, as compared to Pop. And does he have control of the ship like Popovich had? Because it's going to be a difficult time and you have 12 guys who can all play. And you have to find minutes.
Yeah.
That's a curious, just something that's of interest, as well as Wemby's health. But more importantly, the coaching situation.
Mitch Johnson is never going to be Greg Popovich. 0 coaches ever will be Greg Popovich ever again. But the thing that's nice to know from a fan perspective is that Mitch was endorsed by just about everybody on the current Spurs roster. When they made that decision, Pop gave his nod, Wemby, Fox, they all gave their vote of approval for Mitch Johnson. So they all believe in him to start. Who knows how that's going to go? If we hit a rough patch, we're going to have to see how he really handles that. We forget he's got over 70 games under his helm already from last season. Pop was probably in his ear. He didn't have full control of the team, but he's gone out and made some very promising hires. I think we got, his name escaped me right now, but Sweeney from the Dallas Mavericks is going to be our new defensive specialist, kind of associate head coach. He hired Rashard Lewis for some player development. It's going to be great for Carter Bryant. He's got some really promising and talented, well-respected guys on the bench to help him, but I think everybody's really embracing him as the leader of this team. He's been around this organization for over a decade, starting out in the G League down in Austin, and he's moved his way up. So we'll have to see what happens, and I think the players are going to put a lot of trust in him early.
One of the things that impresses me about the Spurs, I think Dante Vassell's good and Keldon Johnson are good, and they're probably not even going to start. So you're pretty deep, and those guys coming off the bench, that's as good as any team's putting out there. And I look at the Spurs as a team a year away, but once everything comes together, look out.
Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson are probably two of the three most polarizing players on this team. On the Spurs Bros podcast, we have been very critical of Devin Vassell over the past 12 months. He's a guy that's very inconsistent on the defensive end of the court. He makes incredible shots. He's a very talented offensive player, but he really shies away from the spotlight, does not come through in the key situations of games, misses rotations, constantly gets back cut. As the current, now that we have Fogg, the second highest paid player on the team, he is not living up to the contract that he signed 2 off seasons ago. Yes, it's great to have that scoring punch, but if you were to ask me who's got the most to prove this upcoming season, whose seat is the hottest to remain on this roster, that name would be Devin Vassell for me.
I would think
Not Keldon Johnson, not Jeremy Sochan, not Harrison Barnes.
Harrison Barnes,
guys.
I want Harrison Barnes to retire a Spur. He embodies everything the Spurs culture is. Keldon Johnson, he's the guy, look, if we want to package Vassell and Johnson together for a trade to go get some B-plus level player to really round out the squad, fine, so be it. But he's the longest tenured Spur. He's a great locker room guy, great culture guy, energy, leader type personality on this team. Keldon Johnson is, but he's got his consistency problems too. So I think he's on the block, and the most polarizing player across the general Spurs fan base is Jeremy Sochan. But I'm a big believer in that kid. I think he's got the intangibles and the ability to affect the game without the ball, which every championship or contending level team needs a guy like that. So I personally don't want Sochan and Barnes to go anywhere. The other two guys, thank you for your service. If they're not here by the trade deadline, so be it.
Why is Sochan polarizing?
People point to his jump shot stands out, right? His form, it has been pretty wacky his first 3 years in the season. He's got the one-handed free throw now, which has actually increased its percentage over 15% at the line, but people want to see more from him offensively. The casual fan doesn't want to sit here and talk X's and O's and defensive schemes and efficiency in a one-on-one defensive setting and all that stuff. They want to see ball go in basket. And that's not something Jeremy Sochan does very pretty. He's a muck it up kind of player, offensive rebound, put back, make good plays, team plays, defensive plays, that sort of thing. He's not somebody that's going to go cross you up like Jamal Crawford. He's going to be more of the Draymond Green type. And Draymond Green's one of the most polarizing players in the league. So if we've got a mini Draymond with less propensity for flagrants and technicals, that's where the Spurs fan base lands. Get him out of here. He can't score.
Yeah. Most fans think that way.
Yeah, most fans do. Yeah. And you can't blame them, right? If you haven't had the exposure to pro or college or even high school level ball, you don't really know what to look for other than can he score? Or is he blocking 2 shots a game? And that's not something he's ever going to do, but he affects the game in a lot of different other ways.
Jose?
Yeah. Okay. So first off, I gotta call out that you just did. I don't know if you meant to do this or not, but you just did a Popovich. He was asked one time in an interview, one of those dumb halftime interviews or after the quarter interviews. So why are the Spurs up? And he looked at what's the key to the game? And he looked at it had been, what's the dude's name who wore those crazy outfits?
Craig Sager.
Craig Sager. He looked at Craig Sager and he goes, "We put the ball in the hoop more than they did." And that was his answer, which is classic Pop. And you just said, does he?
Hey, it's subliminal, man. All I've ever known is
Subliminal
Pop.
Pop.
So Shout out El Jefe.
Well done. Boom. And let's talk a little bit about the new Henson, okay? Because Mitch Johnson had nothing to go on, and I'm not drawing this line between these two people. What am I going to say right now? But there is a there's a distinction between having the interim tag and having the head coach tag. It's different, okay?
Definitely.
And the first thought I had was Luke Walton was an assistant for the Golden State Warriors. Great Warriors team. I think that was the team that won it all. And Steve Kerr was out. And so Luke Walton ran the show. I think he went 14-0, all right? Got a lot of publicity for it. Got a lot of credit for it, which I don't think he deserved. But he went 14-0. And again, officially, he didn't get those wins, but everybody saw it. And he took that and ultimately got a head coaching job out of it and did not do well. Because again, there's a distinction. There's a line of demarcation between, okay, you run the show, Pop's still in the back. And now, hey, dude, you're the head, you're the guy. And so there's no way, it's just subjective, but how do you think Mitch Johnson is going to react to that? Because you mentioned the pressure, right? The 3-game losing streak, maybe starting off 1-4. That's a different kind of pressure. But just the pressure of having the keys to the kingdom, man, which he does now. There's no doubt. He is the guy. How's he going to react to that? Because that's going to be pretty telling. What do you think?
It's kind of like I said earlier. He's got the endorsement from the entire Spurs organization, whether it be front office or Pop himself or the players. And I think confidence goes a long way. The other difference in Mitch Johnson's situation compared to Luke Walton's is the talent of this roster compared to the roster of the Lakers from 2016 to 2019. That was Kobe's final years.
I didn't call out that it was the Lakers, by the way. Just
Well,
for the record, I didn't say Lakers. I didn't say it.
Evidently, are you texting? Keep your hands up so we can see. Invariably, everything we do, if we were talking about the
It wasn't me.
we talk about what's Laker purple.
Hey, I'm not here to give any kudos to the Lakers. They were awful during
They
those
were
years.
awful.
They were awful.
awful.
LeBron James came in and had to change things without Luke Walton. But
I
my main point,
I thought it was the Lakers' best years.
those Lakers teams were not good. They were not competitive. They did not have the
That's
talent
fair.
to legitimately compete. And they did not have anybody of the caliber of Wembanyama or Fox or Castle, for that matter. Say what you want about Castle, but he's the reigning rookie of the year. So I think that's going to give him a lot of ability to make mistakes and lean on the players. And if you listen to any interview about Pop being asked over the years, how were you so good at coaching? What made you so good? And he said, it wasn't me, it was the players. It was Tim Duncan, it was Ginobili, it was Tony Parker, who allowed me to coach them and set an example for everybody else. And those guys are all still so heavily involved in the org. They're around the building every day, and the budding superstars are taking note and taking advice from those players that provided the blueprint to win championships. So I think the culture will persist. It'll just be a spin on what's already been established. And Mitch Johnson's going to probably update the offense in a few ways and let these guys be a little bit more carefree and flowing with some of the more modern offensive schemes that are going on in the NBA now.
Outstanding. I'm excited to see it. I hope not for the best for him, honestly. You answered this question, but I want to circle back because it was a bit of a head scratcher for me initially, but I think you answered it, right? Stephon Castle, rookie of the year, phenomenal player, really fun to watch play. We talked about De'Aaron Fox, and then they draft Dylan Harper. You can make a case that they didn't need Dylan Harper. They're stacked at that position, but you pick the best player. I'm a big fan of, and that's the approach I would take. You pick the best player available.
Yep.
He was the best player available, but it created a bit of a logjam there. But your thinking is Castle and Fox start, and Harper's going to get rookie minutes, 15, 20 minutes. He's going to get some run behind those two. Is that how you see it playing out?
It is. And Harper's already hinted at that. He said, you look at James Harden, he had to come off the bench and wait his turn for 3 or 4 years.
Right.
Now, does that mean that Harper's got his sights set on a trade in 4 years from now to go get the keys to his own team? I hope not. But what people, I think, don't really realize if you're not an actual San Antonio Spurs fan is that this contract that Fox has signed gives us the ability to lock in an all-star level point guard. Stephon Castle's better at the 2 anyway. So we've got a great backcourt right now. Let Harper develop behind these guys. If any one of If either of those first two go down, Harper can slide into either position, do great with not a lot of pressure on him. But if 3 years passes and De'Aaron Fox is 30, 31 years old, and we say, you know what? We really think that Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle is the backcourt of the future. There's two years left on that Fox contract. The cap will have gone up 3 times by then. It's going to be a very attractive deal for a 30-year-old multi-time all-star, hopefully one-time champion point guard that another team is going to go scoop up, and we can move on and usher in the future with Castle and Harper. That's the way that I see it. But to me, this trio of combo guard, point guards, shooting guard, it again gives us the optionality to assess their talent and their progress in this system over the next 3 or so years and make that decision then. But we've got the assurance of a very high level of talent in our backcourt for a long time now, and that's the best scenario you could ask for. I'd rather have 3 great guards than 0.
There's 2 things. One is an observation. Your window is only open so long because as guys like Harper are in the league, they're going to need big money. And when you get into the second apron, you're finished. So having said that, and that's still a couple of years away, obviously, but Wemby's up for a big contract too, I believe. As they get there, then you've got to start weeding out players because you can't pay that much. But more importantly, right now, where do you see the Spurs this year? Wins and place in the league.
I've gone on record. We're in a hiatus right now on the Spurs Bros pod. We're taking September off. Before we took this break, I went on record and said that the floor for this team, if we remain healthy, is 45 wins. That is our floor. If you give me 65 games of Wemby and Fox together, and there's no way in my mind that we win less than 45. So 45 should be a floor. But you look at that, and that's a 8 or 9 seed in the West this past season. So to me, I think if all things go well, we stay healthier than most other teams, we could be pushing for 49 to 50 wins. We're looking at a 5 or 6 seed in the West, really making noise for hopefully a second round playoff appearance this season. I think Wemby's ready to go. He's going to be top 5 MVP voting, which he was already, that was his peak last year. And that's where I see ceiling. Championship, sure. But realistically, I think this is a first or second round playoff team this upcoming season.
Yeah, I don't see him as often as you, so I don't know. But I think the ceiling is higher. I think 4th place, 3rd place is a possibility if they're healthy and everything comes together. There's a lot of talent there.
There is.
If they get to the right places.
It's going to be the Thunder and the Rockets, what everybody's saying, have those top 2 spots on lock. I think where we're going to fly, the Timberwolves are still going to be really good. But from there, that group of Nuggets and Lakers and Warriors, those older teams that have some potential health and longevity questions.
That's right.
Can the Spurs outlast, outrun, outgun those types of teams to make a push for a top 4 seed and get some home court advantage? Remains to be seen. But I think that's a group that we slot in with.
I think if the over the hill gang that you just mentioned, those 3 teams, they're not going to play. Those guys they're going to play 60 games. So having said that, they're not going to win as often as San Antonio, as they are playing for the playoffs. That's why I look at San Antonio as a possible 3rd or 4th place team.
I'd love it, Steve. I'd love it. So
I would too, because you like to see new blood moving up and in the league.
Yeah, the NBA is all about storylines and headlines and who's up and coming and who's going to knock the old guys off their throne. And the Spurs are one of the teams that could do that. I think as much as I absolutely abhor the organization down in Houston, I think that's the type of ascent that we could be looking at with the core of guys that we've assembled.
You got the best player in the game. He will be
He will be. 2 years. 2 years time.
Close. He's close. He's just does everything. So
he's a gem to watch, man. If you go back and watch the game, the Bucks last season when Giannis and company came down to San Antonio, he went head to toe with the Greek Freak, man, and he really established himself. Had a monster block on Giannis. He went behind the back around Dame Lillard and 2-hand jam all over Brook Lopez. He's not nice. He comes off as a nice
Right.
guy, but he is not nice in between the lines. He's going to be really exciting to watch. Healthy. He's put on another 10 to 15 pounds of muscle this summer. Pictures are, it's going to be special. League's got to watch out.
Well, Christmas, the show he put on Christmas against the Knicks.
Yeah. That was really fun. My wife and her family are not sports people, but it was the first Christmas that I spent with them in Gainesville, Florida. And I was like, look, guys, we've got to put this game on while we're opening presents. I don't know what to tell you. And that was the same weekend that I first talked to Jose. But that game, I had these group of non-sports people staring and oohing and awing at the TV because Victor was going crazy. He almost set a Christmas scoring day record. He was a 3-pointer that didn't count away from tying that record of Wilt Chamberlain for most points on a Christmas debut. Yeah, he's really exciting. I can't wait. Even for just training camp, September 29th. I just want to start seeing some videos on socials and get to preseason and get these games rolling.
We all do. It's tough watching a lot of baseball.
Let's see that again.
Yeah, so we all can't wait.
All right, lots to unpack there. I was actually taking notes because I want to capture all of this. Number one, I thought it was really interesting that you said, and I love the thought. And I know you've met Reagan, but you talked about how one of the great storylines in the NBA is generally right going after the old guys, right? Michael Jordan's Bulls had to get through the Pistons, right? The Lakers and the Celtics beating each other up, trying to find supremacy. What's interesting to me is right now the Kings of the Castle, right, are the youngest team in the NBA. They're not old, right? The Oklahoma City Thunder are young. And I just think it's really unique. I can't remember the last time we saw a team that wasn't necessarily on the downside of their peak or at their peak. These guys are just starting their peak.
Yeah.
And they happen to win it all. That team is scary good. Just an aside, the other thing, mentioned a bunch of teams in the West, and I got to stick up for the team that I covered for a few other businesses in the past, and that's Los Angeles Clippers. This team loves the game so much, they skirt the salary cap. You got to give them a couple of props because they're doing everything they can to win it all. And no love for the Clippers?
First of all,
Jokes aside, no
Do we
love.
really want to get into salary cap in the Clippers? I don't know.
Jokes aside, no.
we don't know what's going to happen here.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch of things that can happen. Bomber could have big problems. They can lose a bunch of draft picks. And worst case scenario is Leonard could be declared a free agent, and that contract be voided. I mean, that's worst case.
That's the worst case that's happened in the past. I think it was the T-Wolves that were found of this about 20 years ago or so. Yeah.
And it cost them five first-round draft
first
picks.
rounders and a voided contract. But I don't see that happening for the Clippers.
It won't.
Because that would open up Pandora's box. But yeah, throw the Clippers in there with the other three that I mentioned for sure. That was a team that flipped my mind, but they're right in there with the old gang of talent that's got to hold up against the injury bug.
But that's the other thing. That's another team that's got talent, but they're only going to play. Kawhi's going to play 60 games if we're lucky. That's why they won't amass a great deal of wins during the season. They will get there. They're in the playoffs. Nobody wants to play them.
I still believe that it's a guy that if he's healthy at the right time and he's able to put together his best health, playoff time, he's as good as anybody in the league.
No doubt.
As much as I despise the way he went out, I still have respect for his game.
He's great. He's great. He's just got to be healthy.
Yep. Him and Harden both.
Yeah.
Let me call out this one last thing. As you guys were talking again, I was just jotting down a few things. I want to ask another question. But last offseason, another thing that Steve and I did is because Steve actually saw growing up as a basketball fan, you got to see Wilt Chamberlain. You got to see Bill Russell, which just blows my mind. And that's incredible to me. He saw them play. And I love that. So we spent a time in our show talking about the greats today and who they remind you of. The George Gervins, San Antonio great. Who's the George Gervin of this year? I don't think there is any. But anyway, that all aside, when I see Wemby, and he's a unicorn, right? There's nobody like him, admittedly. But I see a lot of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in him, in that. Okay, now he's an overall better player, undeniably. And Kareem is one of the greatest of all time, which tells you everything you need to know about Wemby. But this is a guy who's, when I see him play, when I saw Kareem play, and I'm old enough to have seen Kareem play, he was graceful. He was graceful out in the court. He did things differently than every other player. Where you saw the centers of that time, you just kind of muscle. again, he was graceful. He didn't have the finger roll of Gervin, but he had obviously that skyhook, right? The skyhook, most graceful shot in the NBA, most unstoppable shot in the NBA. And he would get his rebounds. He'd block shots. He was just an overall great player. And I think if Kareem were born the year Wemby was born, he would be a Wemby-like player. Wemby is Wemby because of players like Kareem. And then he got to see Curry. And so he said, I'm going to start shooting, right? And so he took his talent and he just elevated it. But obviously, that wasn't an option for Kareem. But I see that link between the two. And with apologies for calling up the Lakers because I know I'm going to get some grief for it. But I do see that relationship between the two of them. I'm just a big fan of the guys. I just think, and in this offseason, I think like Kareem, he went and he spent some time meditating and just trying to get his mind right. And just so much that this guy's doing that I'm a fan of. No question there, just an observation.
Jose, could I make I just want to interrupt for one thing. Wemby is, if you go back 10 years ago, he's everything and more than what people thought Porzingis could be.
Oh,
Same
nice.
player,
Yeah.
Same type player, except Porzingis has been hurt and he's not nearly as talented as Wemby. But same thing. Everybody thought in the same way. And now this person came along who can do all those things and hopefully stay out of being injured.
I think what's going to allow him, knock on wood, barring another blood clot, but there's nothing he can do about, Wemby's preparation is unlike any other 7-foot-plus player that the NBA has ever seen. He has taken such a much more methodical approach to preparing his body, stretching out pregame, pre-practice, post-game, post-practice. Everything that he does is so unique and focused on his flexibility and his fingers and his toes and his feet and his ankles and his knees and stretching out and being able to bend and maneuver his body in ways that guys like a Greg Oden or anybody else that's been 7'3" or taller has never done. And that's not a slight on any of these other guys. This is due to the resources and scientific advances that have been available to Victor Wembanyama that were not to prior greats. So I see him hopefully as continuing to maintain his body, maintain his flexibility, and put on muscle at a pace that his frame can withstand to allow him to play more games. Remember, he played a lot of games his rookie year, allowed him to win Rookie of the Year. The only reason that he missed time last year was because of a complete abnormality of a blood clot in his shoulder. It's completely out of anybody's control and had a lot to do with the flight to Paris. So he's going to take care of himself. And I would say if he plays 72 or 73 games, that's a really good target for him year over year.
Nice. All right, we're winding things down. I got two more Wemby questions since we're on the
do it.
topic, and then one unrelated to Wemby that we'll finish up. You earlier coined, or didn't coin, what's the word? You elevated Wemby not just to the best player on the planet, but the best player in all of outer space.
Yes.
Can't
The
get
alien.
any better. He's the aliens. So is he a lock for Defensive Player of the Year, assuming health, of course?
Absolutely, yes. In one word, yes. He was a lock before he got hurt. He only played 46 games last year, and he ended up still leading the league in total blocks on the season. He was the NBA blocks leader last year and playing about half of the season, and that's guys like Walker Kessler and Rudy Gobert, Anthony Davis, Mobley, and Cleveland. They were all phenomenal shot blockers. Brook Lopez, but they did not come close to the rate at which when he was blocking shots. If he plays 65 games, he is absolutely going to win Defensive Player of the Year. If he plays 65 games in any season over the next 10 seasons, I'm confident that he has a chance, should win Defensive Player of the Year every single season for the next decade.
No question. I agree.
Okay.
Voter fatigue is what it is, but I think it's like it's undeniable how much better he is than anyone else.
Reagan, he kind of thinks it would be Rui Hachimura, but
Again with the Lakers.
Coffee.
You're right, though, because you could make an argument that LeBron should have more MVPs. You could make an argument even that Jokic should have more MVPs because voter fatigue is a real thing. And it's silly. Let's pick the best player. Boom. But because of the subjectivity of the award, it ends up being, he's had two. Let's give it to somebody else. But I get your point. let's finish.
I just want to interrupt. Show my age
So
now.
good.
If you go back and look into basketball, I believe the year that Wilt averaged 50 points a game, he did not win the MVP.
Make that
Right.
make sense. Make
Well,
that make sense.
I agree with it because Bill Russell got it, but my point being that could, the point being,
Yeah.
the MVP is subject. Like anybody can.
100%.
You can make a case for anybody.
100%. Let's make a case then, and this is the last Wemby question for Fox and Wemby. Okay. Everybody talks about your top two teams, the big three, right? These are the big two, right, for the Spurs this season. Are they as good as every other top two, best top two? Where do they rank? Okay. Does that make sense? Let's keep it just in the West, maybe. Where do they rank?
Okay, yeah,
As the top two?
You've got some injuries in the East that kind of knock people off,
Sure.
but I think that with who's healthy this year, that duo is better than any duo in the East. When you look at the West, Shea and Jalen Williams, I have to give them their respect as the reigning champions and the MVP,
Right.
All NBA. So I would say that they're better. I would say personally that Jamal Murray and Jokic are currently a better duo. That could change in 30 games this season, though, in my opinion. You think about other duos out there. You've got Kevin Durant with Houston, but who are you going to really pick with them? Amen Thompson?
Right.
Lee? No, that's not a better duo. Look at the guys on the Clippers. I wouldn't put Harden and Kawhi over these two guys. So I think they're top 3 or 4 in terms of healthy duos in the league this season. And that could be a top 2 by the time All-Star break gets here.
All right. I got to ask because I saw Steve shaking his head. He puts, Reagan puts Fox and Wemby over everybody in the East.
I you know what? And I'm going to agree. But if we were to take the past coming into this year, I'll make an argument for Brunson and Towns.
You will not meet a bigger hater of Karl Anthony Towns on the planet than this guy right here.
No, you did. You're looking at him. But he can score with anybody.
Wemby can score more.
What?
Wemby can score
You know
more.
what? Yeah, but I'll go back to what I just said. I'm not arguing about right now. Coming into the year from last year, you can make an argument for that. I'm not, again.
An argument will fail, in my opinion. Karl Anthony Towns, I don't think he had 50 last year. Victor Wembanyama did. Karl Anthony Towns cannot anchor a defense. Victor Wembanyama can. Fox is just as much of a scoring threat as Mr. Brunson is, and he's a better defender. He's got more optionality on the defensive end. De'Aaron Fox
Brunson is one of the top 10 players in the league.
Sure.
He's unstoppable offensively. There is no
So
stopping.
is De'Aaron Fox.
I hope you're
He scored 60 with a broken finger on his shooting hand last year.
Okay.
If you want to look at last season, De'Aaron Fox scored 60 points with a broken finger on his shooting hand. And on the Kings, he had success on the Sacramento Kings. So give Brunson his flowers, sure. But if you want to give Brunson the nod, it's not by very much, in my opinion. Fox is a top 25 guy. Brunson's a top 10 guy. But Wemby's status compared to Karl Anthony Towns is unimaginably, there's a gap there.
Again, I'm not arguing that. What I'm saying is, if we were to do it about right now, we would say coming into the year, Towns, not better, but he can compare. As this season goes on, and Wemby does, wait, let me finish. When Wemby does what we know he's going to do, I'll be the first one. And I believe Wemby's better. I'm not arguing. I believe if you look at the back of the card, Towns is comparable. The other thing, I agree with you defensively. Towns can't guard anyone. He plays drop all the time and he gets
Half
killed.
the game.
I agree with all that. But you know what? He brings offense that is unheard of. If they let him go, he could just score at any time. They don't let him go. And probably because Brunson's bouncing the ball a lot. But I love Brunson. But that's my take. I'm not arguing with what you're saying about those two. I'm looking coming into the year, not once the season starts.
I think if I've learned anything is that I am still the biggest hater of Karl-Anthony Towns because they let him go for about 8 seasons in Minnesota and he could not get them to the playoffs. He can score, sure, but Wembanyama can score and affect winning in a far greater capacity than Cat ever will be able to.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about talent. Those two guys.
Wemby's a better talent. Wemby's a better talent. Wemby, you can combine Brunson and Cat's talent together and it might meet Wemby's talent. He's the best prospect since LeBron James.
That's the word. That's the word, prospect. And prospect means they haven't done it yet.
You're talking about talent, and that's what prospects are built off of.
Yeah, but coming again, I'm going to repeat this. Coming into the year, I'm the first one to agree with you. I just said, if we were to compare, let's say last year, you would have to give them a chance and you'd have to say they could be. And by the way,
you watched the Christmas game. Cat did nothing against Wemby. And Brunson was okay against Trey Jones and a rookie to Castle.
Jose, what do I think of the Knicks?
When he
You're
thinks
a Celtics guy, so probably awful, but
I do not. When you get in the playoff series, you really narrow and look at things. What I found in a few times, and I watched a lot of the Knicks playoff games last year because Boston was out quick, but I found that Karl-Anthony Towns offensively just he's tough. He's tough. You don't stop him offensively. And again, I'm not making the argument about the defense. I'm not making the argument about all the other things. And I think Brunson, you can force him right. You can force him left. You can double him. He knows.
Brunson's better than Fox.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You know,
That's not a question, but I think the gap there is smaller than the gap from
you're
Wemby
probably right.
to Cat.
There's not
If you want to ask me who I'm taking in the playoff series today, going into this season, based off what we saw last year, I'm taking Fox and Wemby before I'm taking Brunson and Cat. And that has nothing to do with Brunson and Fox. It has everything to do with who Wemby is. And
again, no argument. Once Wemby gets going this year, there's not a comparison. What I'm saying again is coming in after last year. That's all I'm arguing.
I've never in my life wanted a bowl of popcorn more than just the last 10 minutes. I would just having so much fun.
You're being fired up over here, man. He's putting Cat combo with Wemby. I can't help myself.
I love it.
Again, all I'm taking is his offensive abilities. I'll be the first. And by the way, when he played with Minnesota, that was before that last year he was there. It was a travesty. It was, can you top this? Whoever had the ball just wanted to score. And nobody cared what went on down the other end. So I'm the first one to indict Towns.
Wemby's a better offensive player than Towns is.
I'm not going to argue. Does he have the potential? Yes. And does he show?
Personally, a better offensive player, Karl-Anthony Towns.
Okay.
Call me a homer, but you can't.
I was thinking of other things. I was thinking of other things, but no. I'm not comparing. Let me get this straight. I'm not comparing the two. All I'm saying is, again, going back to last year, not right now. If you gave me a choice, I'll take Wemby all night. So, anybody would in their right mind. But that's all I'm saying. And offensively, I just think Towns is really good. And by the way, again, if you do this with anybody, Wemby's got more potential than anybody in the league. So you're going to come out on top using that logic every time.
I got no horse in the race, right? At all. I'm just going to state facts and nobody yell at me. All right. These are just,
you can do it or I'll do it.
2024-25 season, Wemby's numbers, 24.3, 11, 3.7. All right. Scoring, rebound, assists. Cat, 24.4, 12.8, 3.1. So I see the argument when you just look at numbers. You look at two people that, their output is the same. I can see the argument, but I also understand that the gap, the numbers don't tell the whole story. Numbers never tell the whole story. But if you just look at the numbers, right? Just a fact.
And there was 6 or 7, about 10 or 11 of those numbers for Wemby were affected by undiagnosed blood clot. So if you really go back and you look at his number prior to the Paris games in mid-January, they were much higher, and he was at the 5 spot on the NBA ladder for MVP voting. Karl-Anthony Towns did not sniff the top 10 on the entire season. Brunson did. So again, the gap there is just bigger, and you can make the argument. People can make the argument all they want, but this San Antonio Spurs diehard fan will not hear it.
That's it. That's it. That's the mic drop moment. That was a great conversation. That was a great conversation. Let's leave it with
Fun,
this,
Steve.
all right?
Oh, it's always good to talk about that. One last quick question. Healthy, Tatum and Brown or Wemby and the other guy?
I got to say Tatum and Brown because they won a championship and we haven't. So until we can do what they have, I can't make that argument. I'm a big guy about affecting winning, and that's part of my argument against Cat. But Tatum and Brown have proven that they can go win with the best of them. And I think had Tatum not ruptured his Achilles this year, that they would have been repeat champions. So I still give the cake to those two up in Boston.
I hate to say it, the Knicks had him. It was over. It was 3-1 when Tatum went down. It was going to be 3-1.
Yeah.
I didn't see Boston coming back. They blew those first 2 games and it was over. But that's over, or so on. But that's an interesting, that might be the only 2 that I would say have a chance of being the better combination.
And that's who went in my brain when the question was first posed. But since Tatum is out right now, I can say that they're better than anyone in the East this year.
Yeah.
The reality is that neither one of you are allowed to comment after I say what I'm about to say. You're both wrong. Luka and LeBron are the best deal.
Oh, no.
No response needed.
It was Rui and like confused. I don't know.
Oh, we go. Tongue in cheek. I hope everybody understands that. CP3, what an amazing career. What an amazing guy. I'm a big fan. He had his best individual careers, I think, here in LA. He's back with the Clippers. You called him out earlier, Reagan. You mentioned that I think top 5 and pick and roll with Wemby. Are the Spurs going to miss that leadership on the court? Because he's a pretty special guy and a good guy to have on your team. I think I'll miss him.
I don't know if miss is the right word because of the talent that we've acquired in the wake of his departure. If you look at what the Thunder were able to grasp from the 1 year he spent in Oklahoma City, and I think that's all you really need at this stage of his career. There was plenty of leadership and knowledge and wisdom that he imparted on Castle and Wemby and probably even Fox once that acquisition was made. And I'm very thankful for that. But there were a lot of times where his age really limited him, and I wanted to see him shoot the ball more, and he just wasn't aggressive enough in the spots that we would have liked to see him be aggressive. So I think it was a perfect marriage for what was expected of him. He absolutely delivered. He played 82 games. He was a rival and a thorn in our side for years and years on different teams. He came in here with grace and we embraced him and it was fun. But to say that we're going to miss him, I don't think I can say that because of the trio that we've got coming in this season. I think we gained everything we needed to. Wish him the best in his retirement tour this year, and we'll have fun, hopefully with a higher playoff seed than he will.
Nicely done.
I think Paul's biggest asset will be he could be an outstanding coach down the road.
Oh, for sure. If he wants to do that,
Yeah.
he's got it. He's got it on lock. He's the next Jason Kidd, Steve Nash.
I think he'll be better than Jason Kidd.
Yeah, I think he'll be better than both
Yeah.
for sure.
We agree on that.
All right.
There we go.
We
All
gotta,
right. That's a good place to
we gotta
end.
leave it there. We got to leave it there. It can't get any better. That's it. Our time is up. Thank you for listening. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to Reagan. Make sure again to follow the Spurs Bros. I always have such a hard time with it. Spurs Bros, and I don't know why. Pod. You can find them on YouTube and Instagram at the Spurs Bros Podcast and X at the Spurs Bros Pod. Absolutely great Spurs content. Obviously, very passionate fans, but they know the game, and that's what you want, man, at the end of the day. Super excited to see the Spurs this season. Thanks, Reagan. Great conversation. We're excited to follow you and the Spurs this season. Please subscribe, follow us, follow the Spurs Bros Pod, and join us next week. We're not sure what we're going to talk about. We're going to find another interesting team to talk about, though, Steve and I. But Reagan, thanks again, man. Appreciate the time.
Thanks for y'all's time and thanks for the continued support from the Peach Basket. Really appreciate you guys and looking forward to an exciting season.
Thank you.